Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Magnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Darati Swaparandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapata Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunathanmitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savarutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanmitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhupya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavari Pashatta Rishatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so today we read about Akrura's return journey and his visiting of Vishnu Loka within the Yamuna River. Chapter 38. So Akrura was warmly received by Lord Krishna and Nanda Maharaj and offered a resting place for the night. In the meantime, the two brothers, Balaram and Krishna, went to take their supper. Akrura sat on his bed and began to reflect that all the desires which he had anticipated while coming from Mathura to Vrindavan had been fulfilled. Lord Krishna is the husband of the goddess of fortune. Being pleased with his pure devotee, he can offer whatever the devotee desires. But the pure devotee does not ask anything from the Lord for his personal benefit. After taking their supper, Krishna and Balaram began to bid good night to Akrura. Krishna asked about his maternal uncle, Kamsa. How is he dealing with his friends? And he asked, how are my relatives? He also inquired into Kamsa's plans. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then informed Akrura that his presence was very much welcome. He inquired from him whether all his relatives and friends were well and free from all kinds of ailments. Krishna stated that he was very sorry that his maternal uncle Kamsa was the head of the kingdom. He said that Kamsa was the greatest anachronism in the whole system of government and that they could not accept any welfare for the citizens while he ruled. Then Krishna said, my father has undergone much tribulation simply from my being his son. For this reason also he has lost many other sons. I think myself so fortunate that you have come as my friend and relative, my good friend Akrura. Please tell me the purpose of your coming to Vrindavan. After this inquiry, Akrura, who belonged to the dynasty of Yadu, explained the recent events in Mathura, including Kamsa's attempt to kill Vasudeva, the father of Krishna. He related the things which happened after the disclosure by Narada that Krishna was the son of Vasudeva. Sitting by him in the house of Nanda Maharaj, Akrura narrated all the stories regarding Kamsa. He told how Narada met Kamsa and how he himself was deputed by Kamsa to come to Vrindavan. Akrura explained to Krishna that Narada had told Kamsa all about Krishna's being transformed from Mathura to Vrindavan just after his birth and about his killing all the demons sent by Kamsa. Akrura then explained to Krishna that the purpose of his coming to Vrindavan to take him back to Mathura. After hearing of this arrangement, Balaram and Krishna, who are very expert in killing opponents, mildly laughed at the plans of Kamsa. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. They asked Nanda Maharaj to invite all the cowherd boys to go to Mathura to participate in the ceremony known as Dhanur Yajna. Kamsa wanted them all to go there to participate in the function. On Krishna's word, Nanda Maharaja at once called for the cowherd boys and asked them to collect all kinds of milk preparations and milk to present in the ceremony. He also sent instructions to the police chief of Vrindavana to tell all the inhabitants about Kamsa's great Dhanurjajna function and invite them to join. Nanda Maharaja informed the cowherd boys that they would start the next morning. They therefore arranged for the cows and bulls to carry them all to Madura. When the Gopis saw that Akrura had come to take Krishna and Balarama away to Madura, they became overwhelmed with anxiety. Some of them became so aggrieved that their faces turned black, and they began to breathe warmly and had palpitations of the heart. They discovered that their hair and dress immediately loosened. Hearing the news that Krishna and Balarama were leaving for Madura, others who were engaged in household duties stopped working as if they had forgotten everything, like a person who is called for to die and leave this world at once. Others immediately fainted due to the separation from Krishna. Remembering his attractive smile and his talks with them, the Gopis became overwhelmed with grief. They all remembered the characteristics of the personality of Godhead, how he moved within the area of Vrindavana, and how, with joking words, he attracted all their hearts. Thinking of Krishna and of their imminent separation from him, the Gopis assembled together with heavy beating hearts. Completely absorbed in the thought of Krishna, tears fell from their eyes. They began to converse as follows. O Providence, you are so cruel. It appears that you do not know how to show mercy to others. By your arrangement, friends contact one another, but without fulfilling their desires, you separate them. This is exactly like children's play that has no meaning. It is very abominable that you arrange to show us beautiful Krishna, whose bluish curling hair beautifies his broad forehead and sharp nose, who is always smiling to minimize all contention in this material world, and then arrange to separate him from us. O Providence, you are so cruel. But most astonishingly, you appear now as Akrura, which means not cruel. In the beginning, we appreciated your workmanship in giving us these eyes to see the beautiful face of Krishna. But now, just like a foolish creature, you are trying to take out our eyes so we may not see Krishna here again. Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is also very cruel. He must always have new friends. He does not like to keep friendship for a long time with anyone. We gopis of Vrindavana, having left our homes, friends, and relatives, have become Krishna's maidservants. But he is neglecting us and going away. He does not even look upon us, although we are completely surrendered unto him. Now, all the young girls in Madura will have the opportunity. They are expecting Krishna's arrival, and they will enjoy his sweet smiling face and will drink its honey. Although we know that Krishna is very steady and determined, we are threatened that as soon as he sees the beautiful face of the young girls in Madura, he will forget himself. We fear he will become controlled by them and will forget us, for we are simple village girls. He will no longer be kind to us. We therefore do not expect Krishna to return to Vrindavana. He will not leave the company of the girls in Madura. The Gopis began to imagine the great functions in the city of Madura. Krishna would pass through the streets, and the ladies and young girls of the city would see him from the balconies of their respective houses. Madura city contained different communities known as Dasharha, Boja, Andaka, and Satvada. All these communities were different branches of the same family in which Krishna appeared, namely the Yadu dynasty. They were also expecting the arrival of Krishna. It had already been ascertained that Krishna, who is the rest of the goddess of fortune and reservoir of all pleasure and transcendental qualities, was going to visit Madura city. The Gopis then began to condemn the activities of Akrura. They stated that he was taking Krishna, who was more dear than the dearest to them, and who was the pleasure of their eyes. He was being taken from their sight without their being informed or solaced by Akrura. Akrura should not have been so merciless, but should have taken compassion on them. The Gopis went on to say, the most astonishing feature is that Krishna, the son of Nanda, without consideration, has already seated himself on the chariot. From this, it appears that Krishna is not very intelligent, yet he may be very intelligent, but he is not very civilized. Not only Krishna, but all the cowherd men are so careless that they are already yoking the bulls and calves for the journey to Madura. The elderly persons in Vrindavana are also merciless. They do not take our plight into consideration and stop Krishna's journey to Madura. Even the demigods are very unkind to us. They are not impeding his going to Madura. Hare
Okay, I want to ask a question before I read. Uh, why are they like opposing Krishna? Like, Krishna is not so like what is happening here? Like, why are the gopis and like they're so against Krishna. Like, he's
Yes,
not
'cause-
that.
Hmm.
He's not very intelligent. He's not that. Like, are they so jealous or something? Is there something I didn't understand while you were reading? Because it feels like they were against Krishna. Like that from this it appears that Krishna is not very intelligent, but he's not very civilized. Like they are speaking against Krishna. Are
Yes,
they jealous or something?
It
yes,
is
because
their
here,
love, the devotion they have, and they don't consider him as somebody, unequal or anything. I think that is why they are so fond of him and very heartbroken to see him leave. So I think it is because of the devotion.
You mean they are so devotional that they don't understand it's Krishna is the highest, so
yeah,
they.
Yes, and
Okay, so I understood
they
this
see
is the.
him as equal. It is already been said, Prabhu, in the further reading, previous reading sessions. They see him as one of his friend, their friends, beloved, and everyone.
Yeah.
So they don't consider him as a god.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Santosh Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. We will.
Prabhu, actually, the thing is that so there is if I can offer my explanation, that would be that the reason that the Vrindavan Vasis see Lord Sri Krishna as just a boy is because of Yoga Maya. They're under Yoga Maya, hence they believe that Krishna is just like a loving boy for them. It's like they see him as a human. It's like it's because of a lot of devotion and because they are in Yoga Maya, they think of Krishna as a mere boy and they feel like protecting him, loving him, cherishing him, chastising him, etc. I hope I am right. If I am not right, please do correct me, Sami Prabhu and Vishnu Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, this is right.
Okay, thank you. So it's Yoga Maya.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for clarification.
Yeah, and because in this situation, Akrura is taking Krishna away from Vrindavan, and here it is said that the gopis condemned the activities of Akrura. Yeah, they were angry to Akrura because he was taking Krishna away. Here they said that he was taking Krishna because Akrura came to take Krishna to Mathura away from the Vrindavan.
He's taking our person, like the most lovable person away. So of
Yeah.
course they feel bad.
Yeah, and
Okay.
they are angry. They are angry at Krishna because Krishna has already seated him on the chariot, and he's seated without consideration. They are like, what are you, Krishna, doing? You are just leaving us like this. You are sitting on the chariot without doing anything.
Okay, now I understand. Yeah.
They're saying that Krishna, you're not really intelligent. You're leaving us.
Yeah. Okay, and this is Krishna Lila. All this,
Yes,
like
Prabhu.
it is. Okay. Hey, by the way, the Lila is that? Do I understand it correctly? It's like a play, a Krishna that Krishna makes some kind of play, like
Yeah.
a theater. Like yep.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Because Krishna himself, he has nothing to do because he's always satisfied with himself, and so everything that he does, it's not out of duty. It's always a play. It's out of causeless mercy. So it's like Leela, it's pastime. When we do something, when any other person does something, he's working. He's doing some duty that he has to do. But for Krishna, there is no duty. For him, every action is just play. It's pastime.
He's just having fun, like
Yeah.
let's do this and this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, there's a meaning always
Yeah.
for it.
Yes, bro.
Still, it's just for him. It's like circling a finger, like what the pinky finger, like la 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 la
Yeah.
la. This is fun. Okay, now they understand. Okay.
Yes, and simultaneously always he liberates everyone. The demons, by killing them, he liberates them, and the devotees he liberates also by giving them association.
It's just us who see it in the wrong way, possibly
Yeah.
like, oh my god, oh my Krishna, this is happening. Like, oh,
Yeah.
there's like, there's a reason for everything. I'm doing this for the good of
Yeah,
you.
see, here they talk about even the demigods, that they are really unkind and they don't consider them because they are not doing anything, or they are not doing anything to stop Krishna to going to Mathura.
Oh, okay.
You see, okay, you can continue. Now it continues nicely.
Okay. I'll turn the phone. The gopis prayed to the demigods to create some natural disturbance, such as a hurricane, storm, or heavy rainfall, so that Krishna could not go to Mathura. They then began to consider, despite our elderly parents and guardians, we shall personally stop Krishna from going to Mathura. We have no other alternative than to take this direct action. Everyone has gone against us to take away Krishna from our side. Without him, we cannot leave for a moment. The gopis thus decided to obstruct the passage through which the chariot of Krishna was supposed to pass. They began to talk among themselves. We have passed a very long night, which seemed only a moment, engaged in the rasa dance with Krishna. We were looking at his sweet smile, and we were embracing and talking. Now, how shall we leave how shall we leave even for a moment if he goes away from us? At the end of the day, in the evening, along with his elder brother Balarama, Krishna would return home with his friends. His face would be smeared with the dust raised by the hooves of the cows, and he would smile and play on his flute and look upon us so kindly. How shall we be able to forget him? How shall we be able to forget Krishna, who is our life and soul? He has already taken away our hearts in so many ways throughout our days and nights. And if he goes away, there is no possibility of our continuing to live. Thinking like this, the gopis became more and more grief-stricken at Krishna's leaving Vrindavana. They could not check their minds and they began to cry loudly, calling the different names of Krishna. Oh, dear Damodara, dear Madhava. The gopis cried all night before the depart. I'm sorry about my pronunciation. Departure of Krishna. As soon as the sun rose, Akrura finished his morning bath, got on the chariot, and began to start for Mathura with Krishna and Balarama. Nanda Maharaja and the cowherd men got up on bullock carts after loading them with milk preparations such as yogurt, milk, and ghee, filled in big earthen pots, and began to follow the chariot of Krishna and Balarama. In spite of Krishna's asking them not to obstruct their way, all the gopis surrounded the chariot and stood up to see Krishna with pitiable eyes. Krishna was very much affected upon seeing the plight of the gopis, but his duty was to start off Mathura, for this was foretold by Narada. Krishna therefore consoled the gopis. He told them that they should not be aggrieved. He was coming back very soon after finishing his past business, but they could not be persuaded to disperse. The chariot, however, began to head west, and as it proceeded, the minds of the gopis followed it as far as possible. They watched the flag on the chariot as long as it was visible. Finally, they could only see the dust of the chariot in the distance. The gopis did not move from their places, but stood until the chariot could not be seen at all. They remained standing still as if they were painted pictures. All the gopis decided that Krishna was not returning immediately, and with greatly disappointed hearts, they returned to their respective homes. Being greatly disturbed by the absence of Krishna, they simply thought all day and night about these pastimes and thus derived some consolation. The Lord, accompanied by Akrura and Balarama, drove the chariot with great speed toward the bank of the Yamuna. Simply by taking a bath in the Yamuna, anyone can diminish the reaction of his sinful activities. Both Krishna and Balarama took their baths in the river and washed their faces. After drinking the transparent crystal clear water of the Yamuna, they took their seats again on the chariot. The chariot was standing underneath the shade of big trees, and both brothers sat down there. Akrura then took their permission to also take part in the Yamuna. According to Vedic ritual, after taking part in the river, one should stand at least half submerged and murmur. I don't know what that means, murmur, the Gayatri mantra. While he was standing in the river, Akrura suddenly saw both Balarama and Krishna within the water. He was surprised to see them there because he was confident that they were sitting on the chariot. Confused, he immediately came out of the water and went to see where the boys were, and he was very surprised to see that they were sitting on the chariot. Ah, okay, thank you, Prabhu. Immediately he came out of the water and went to see where the boys were, and he was surprised. When he saw them on the chariot, he began to wonder whether he saw them in the water. He therefore went back to the river. This time he saw not only Balarama and Krishna there, but many of the demigods and all the Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas. They were all standing before the Lord who was lying down. He also saw the Shesha Naga with thousands of hoods. Lord Shesha Naga was covered with bluish garments, and his necks were all white. The white necks of Shesha Naga appeared exactly like snow-capped mountains. On the curved lap of Shesha Naga, Akrura saw Krishna sitting very soberly, with four hands. His eyes were like the reddish petals of the lotus flower. Wow, this is cool. In other words, after returning, Akrura saw Balarama turned into Sheshanaka and Krishna turned into Mahavishnu. He saw the 400 Supreme Personality of Godhead smiling very beautifully. He was very pleasing to all and was looking towards everyone. He appeared beautiful with his raised nose, broad forehead, spread up ears, and reddish lips. His arms, reaching to the knees, were very strongly built. His shoulders were high, his chest very broad, and shaped like the conch shell. His navel was very deep, and his abdomen was marked with three lines. His waist was broad and big, resembling the hips of a woman, okay, and his thighs resembled the trunks of elephants. The other parts of his legs, the joints and lower extremities, were all very beautiful. The nails of his feet were dazzling, and his toes were as beautiful as the petals of the lotus flower. His helmet was decorated with very valuable jewels. There was a nice belt around the waist, and he wore a sacred thread across his broad chest. Bangles were on his hands and armlets on the upper portion of his arms. He wore bells on his ankles. He possessed a dazzling beauty, and his palms were like the lotus flower. He was still more beautiful with different emblems of the Vishnu Murti, the conch shell, club, disc, and lotus flower, which he held in his four hands. His chest was marked with the particular signs of Vishnu, and he wore fresh flower garlands. All in all, he was very beautiful to look at. Akrura also saw his lordship surrounded by intimate associates like the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, and Sanat Kumara, and other associates like Sumanda and Nanda, as well as demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva. The nine great learned sages were there, and devotees like Prahlada and Narada were engaged in offering prayers to the Lord with clean hearts and pure words. After seeing the transcendental personality of Godhead, Akrura immediately became overwhelmed with great devotion, and all over his body there was transcendental shivering. Although for the moment he was bewildered, he retained his clear consciousness and bowed down his head before the Lord. With folded hands and faltering voice, he began to offer prayers to the Lord. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 38th chapter of Krishna, Akrura's return journey, and his visiting of Vishnu Loka within the Yamuna river. Thank you, Prabhu.
Haribol. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Oh yeah, so they went take bath in the river. I didn't notice this point how they ended up in the river or at the river. Yeah, this was really amazing description. Like how all the devotees were there also. That's nice to hear.
Well, that sounds so, tripping. Like, first they're under a tree and he's taking a bath, and he goes underwater and he sees them also
Yeah.
there. Like, that's so tripping, like, what? So I understand why he got up and, like, wanted to be sure, like, where are they? Oh, they're still under the tree.
Yeah.
That would be so tripping. Cool. And Sheshanaka. Okay,
He saw
yeah.
everything there. That would be so confusing.
I'm serious. With thousands of hoods, he saw everything. Like, wow.
Okay, let's read the next one also. It's short one, so we can read it. Only 3 pages. Okay, Vishnu Prabhu, you can continue. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Chapter 39. Prayers by Akrura. Akrura offered his prayers as follows. My dear Lord, I here pay my respectful obeisances unto you, because you are the supreme cause of all causes and the original inexhaustible personality, Narayana. From your navel a lotus flower grows, and from that lotus, Brahma, the creator of this universe, is born. Since Brahma is the cause of this universe, you are the cause of all causes. All the elements of this cosmic manifestation, earth, water, fire, air, ether, ego, and the total material energy, as well as nature, the marginal energy, the living entities, mind, senses, the sense subjects, and the demigods who control the affairs of the cosmos, are all produced from your body. You are the supersoul of everything, but no one knows your transcendental form. Everyone within this material world is influenced by the modes of material nature. Demigods like Lord Brahma, being covered by the influence of material nature, do not exactly know your transcendental existence beyond the cosmic manifestation of the three modes of material nature. Great sages and mystics worship you as the supreme personality of Godhead, the original cause of all living entities, all cosmic manifestation, and all demigods. They worship you as all inclusive. Some of the learned Brahmanas also worship you by observing the ritualistic ceremony of the Rig Veda. They offer different kinds of sacrifices in the names of different gods, and there are others also who are fond of worshipping transcendental knowledge. They are very peaceful and wish to give up all kinds of material activities. They engage themselves in the philosophical search for you, known as Jnana Yoga. There are devotees also, known as Bhagavatas, who worship you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After being properly initiated in the method of Pancharatra, they decorate their bodies with tilaka and engage in worshipping your different forms of Vishnu Murti. There are also others also, known as Shaivites, followers of the different acharyas, who worship you in the form of Lord Shiva. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that worship of demigods is also indirectly worship of the Supreme Lord. But such worship is not orthodox, because the worshipable Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Demigods such as Brahma and Shiva are incarnations of the material qualities, which are also emanations from the body of Narayana. Actually, there was no one existing before the creation except Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The worship of a demigod is not on the level with worship of Narayana. Akrura said, although the minds of those who are devotees of the demigods are fixed on a particular demigod, because you are the supersoul of all living entities, including the demigods, worship of demigods indirectly goes to you. Sometimes, after flowing down from the mountains during the rainy season, small rivers fail to reach the sea. Some reach the sea and some do not. Similarly, the worshippers of the demigods may or may not reach you. There is no guarantee. Their success depends on the strength of their worship. According to Vedic principle, when a worshipper worships a particular demigod, he also conducts some ritual for Narayana, Yajneshwara, for it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita that demigods cannot fulfill the desires of their worshippers without the sanction of Narayana or Krishna. The exact words used in the Bhagavad Gita are Mayeva Vihidan Hitan, which means that the demigods can award some benediction after being authorized by the Supreme Lord. When the demigod worshipper comes to his senses, he can reason as follows. The demigod can offer benediction only after being empowered by the Supreme Lord. So why not worship the Supreme Lord directly? Worshippers of the demigods may come to the supreme personality of Godhead, but others who take the demigod as all in all cannot reach the ultimate goal. Akrura continued to pray, "My dear Lord, the whole world is filled with three material modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. Everyone within this material world is covered by these modes, from Lord Brahma down to the immovable planets and trees. My dear Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, because you are beyond the influence of the three modes. Except for you, everyone is being carried away by the waves of these modes. My dear Lord, fire is your mouth, the earth is your feet, the sun is your eye, the sky is your navel, and directions are your ears. Space is your head, demigods are your arms, the oceans and seas are your abdomen, and the winds and air are your strength and vitality. All the plants and herbs are the hairs on your body, the clouds are your hair, the mountains are your bones and nails, the days and nights are the twinkling of your eyelids. Prajapati, the progenitor, is your genitals, and all the rains are your semina. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My dear Lord, all living entities, including Aditya Prabhu, do you want to read?
What?
I was asking from Aditya Prabhu if he wants to read also. Okay, maybe he's doing something. My dear Lord, all living entities, including different grades of demigods, different grades of overlords, kings, and other living entities, are supposed to be resting in you. As part and parcel of the big unit, one cannot know you by experimental knowledge. One can simply understand your transcendental existence as the great ocean in which different grades of living entities are included, or as the fruit kadamba, out of which small mosquitoes come. My dear Lord, whatever eternal forms and incarnations you accept and which appear in this world are meant for relieving the living entities from their ignorance, illusion, and lamentation. All people, therefore, can appreciate the incarnations and pastimes of your Lordship and eternally glorify your activities. No one can estimate how many forms and incarnations you have, nor can anyone estimate the number of universes that are existing within you. Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the incarnation of fish, who appeared in devastation, although your lordship is the cause of all causes. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Hayagriva incarnation, who killed the two demons, Madhu and Kaitaba. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as the gigantic tortoise and held up the great mountain Mandara, and who appeared as the great boar who rescued the earth planet which had fallen into the water of Garbhodaka. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto your lordship, who appeared as Nrsimhadev, who delivered all kinds of devotees from their fearful condition of atheistic atrocities. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as Vamana Deva and covered the three worlds simply by expanding your lotus feet. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as the Lord of the Brigus, in order to kill and infidel administrators of the world. And let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as Lord Rama to kill demons like Ravana. You are worshipped by all devotees as the chief of the Raghu dynasty, Lord Ramachandra. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as Lord Vasudeva, Lord Sankarshana, Lord Pradyumna, and Lord Aniruddha. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as Lord Buddha, in order to bewilder the atheistic and demoniac. And let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as Kalki, in order to chastise the so-called royal order degraded to the abominable condition of the mlechas, who are below the jurisdiction of Vedic regulative principles. My dear Lord, everyone within this material world is conditioned by your illusory energy. Under the impression of false identification and false position, everyone is transmigrating from one body to another in the path of fruitive activities and their reactions. My dear Lord, I am also no exception for this condition, to these conditioned souls. I am falsely thinking myself happy in possessing home, wife, children, state, property, and effects. In this way, I am acting as if in dreamland because none of these are permanent. I am a fool to be always absorbed in such thoughts, accepting them as permanent and true. My dear Lord, due to my false identification, I have accepted everything which is non-permanent, such as this material body, which is not spiritual and is the source of all kinds of miserable conditions. Being bewildered by such concepts of life, I am always absorbed in thoughts of duality, and I have forgotten you, who are the reservoir of all transcendental pleasure. I am bereft of your transcendental association, and just like a foolish creature who goes in search of water in the desert, leaving the water spot which is covered by water-nourished vegetables, the conditioned soul want to quench their thirst, but they do not know where to find water. They give up the spot where there is actually a reservoir of water and run into the desert where there is no water. My dear Lord, I am completely incapable of controlling my mind, which is now driven by the unbridled senses and is attracted by fruitive activities and their results. My dear Lord, your lotus feet cannot be appreciated by any person in the conditional stage of material existence, but somehow or other I have come near your lotus feet, and I consider this to be your causeless mercy upon me. You can act in any way because you are the supreme controller. I can thus understand that when a person becomes eligible to be delivered from the path of repeated birth and death, it is only by your causeless mercy that he further progresses to become attached to your causeless devotional service. Akrura fell down before the Lord and said, My dear Lord, your transcendental eternal form is full of knowledge. Simply by concentrating one's mind upon your form, one can understand in full knowledge everything that be, because you are the original source of all knowledge. You are the supreme powerful, possessing all kinds of energies. You are the supreme Brahman and the supreme person, supreme controller and master of the material energies. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you are Vasudeva, the resting place of all creation. You are the all-pervading supreme person of Godhead, and you are also supreme soul, residing in everyone's heart and giving direction to acts. Now, my dear Lord, I am completely surrendered unto you. Please give me protection. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 39th chapter of Krishna, Prayers by Akrura. Rivo. Yes, these prayers are like from this is like depicting our situation. It's not like Akrura is really like this, but he's doing this on behalf of us because this is describing our situation.
Yes, Prabhu.
So that's considered as a lila also, like for everyone else.
Yes, Prabhu. Once again.
Sami Prabhu, I also have a question about the, I earlier asked about the poisoning of Prabhupada. So
Yes.
uh, I also thought, because Prabhupada saw the past, the future, and present. So did he, intentionally take the poison? He knew he was going to be poisoned, but did he take it like intentionally?
This is like usually there is many examples like this because when they are condemned, they could ask from Krishna that Krishna make stop this, change it or something. But we see that none of these Vaishnavas they made nothing. They just accepted things. Because whatever Krishna does, that is perfect. They don't need to ask anything from Krishna. Just like the Maharaj Parikshit who was spoken, who Sutta Goswami knows, who Sukadeva Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam to, Maharaj Parikshit. So he was condemned to die from the bite of by snake bird. It was snake bird, and he was condemned. He was cursed to die, and he could have counteracted this curse. There was, who was it? There was a son of Brahmana who cursed Maharaj Parikshit, and it was that he was supposed to die in 7 days, but he accepted it. He didn't counter. He didn't try to counter the curse or anything. He knew that now I'm going to see Krishna again, so he just accepted it and heard the Bhagavatam. He showed us example how to prepare for death. So that was pastime also for showing us. And also Jesus Christ, he knew that he's gonna be crucified. He didn't run away or try to stop it or ask from God. What he asked was that these people, they don't know what they are doing. Please forgive them. So he didn't try to ask that, please save me from this. So this is what Vaishnavas do.
Okay, so basically I got the answer beforehand because I had that Jesus Christ in mind. Like he did it on, like okay, hey, crucify me, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like he went, and so Prabhupada was also like, hey, okay, let's go.
Also,
He
there's
wanted to
one example. There was Haridas Thakur who was beaten in 21 marketplaces, and he just kept chanting. He just went from one marketplace to another, and they beat him, and he just kept chanting, and nothing happened to him.
Yeah, and he was chanting that like give mercy to them. Like he was
Yeah.
merciful, like Jesus.
Usually the persons who are beaten, who get this beating at marketplace punishment, they die at the first marketplace. They don't make it to the second marketplace.
And he was through like 22.
Yeah, and they were thinking that this is not normal, nothing is happening to him, and we are just beating him, and he's just going on. Then they got a little bit scared, that maybe we're not doing the right thing here. Someone is protecting him.
Yeah, that's cool. Wow. So Prabhupada was like that also. Because there was in the recordings there was to me he was like telling in a very subtle way, like, oh, I know what you're talking about.
And
but he took it like
and all those tapes was for us as hint, so that in future the people might know what happened, and because we know what they did, so we can avoid them more easily. Because if these things, if they did a little bit like smaller things and not so clear deviations, then for us it wouldn't be so clear. But when we see these things and we see that, oh, Prabhupada confirmed that these things happened, then for us it was easier to leave this ISKCON and the fake gurus, because we know clearly that they was doing some nonsense, and Prabhupada himself is saying that they're doing nonsense.
so it was a lesson.
Like he left some hints, for future also.
And showing that, because it was recorded, because that I actually had that idea all in my mind before I asked it question. Like, I don't know what's before, but I didn't ask it before. But
yes, Prabhu.
That like maybe it was for like Prabhupada, just like you said, to show us how to die in the right way. Like it was recorded. He was dying, like the very moments he was dying, so he could show us everybody else how to die with Krishna consciousness and not being afraid of it, and like go with it. Like this is the way. Just don't be afraid. This is the way. Trust Krishna, and
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, yes, okay. So that was also given. I don't know, was it from you or Prabhupada? Yeah. Okay, now I'm confirmed about it.
Yeah, this is Prabhupada also says that the Vaishnava, I know from there some lectures where he says that the Vaishnava accepts inconveniences for others' benefit. So that is a kind of Vaishnava, that they go through voluntarily some suffering for others' benefit.
Wow.
But I don't know how to find it now. I'm trying to find it.
Imagine having that attitude and that, like, going Krishna consciousness, like that strong, that I'm willing to go through this for others, so others can learn from it and get better and get to Krishna consciousness.
Yes, Prabhu. And these devotees that are pure like this, that are doing like this, they are not suffering during it. The more we see that, oh, there might be some suffering, the more they are like, this, the suffering amount we see that they are going through, it's not really suffering. It's spiritual bliss that they are going through. But we are just seeing that maybe he's suffering. Outwardly, to our eyes, it might seem suffering. But they're, as much as we see them suffering, they're really uplifted.
Yeah, so they're showing this is nothing. Hey man, you can do it. This is nothing. I can do this. It's like this, and you can go through what you're going through. Like they're showing that it's nothing to be, for example, be poisoned or crucified or anything. Like it's so high that loving God, Krishna consciousness, that
Yes,
nothing.
also is there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yo. I mean, I understand. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Wow,
Hmm.
that's so high. Like so. Oh my God. Like wow.
Here's something. Here is one point from Srimad Bhagavatam that one should accept voluntarily bodily inconveniences for the sake of knowing Vasudeva, because that is the way. That is the way of real austerities. Otherwise, all forms of austerity are classified as modes of passion and ignorance. So everyone should accept some voluntary bodily inconvenience.
So that's like they for them it's just voluntarily bodily inconvenience.
Yeah.
It was for Prabhupada, it was just a bodily
Yeah.
inconvenience.
Yeah. For us,
Okay.
it's a big suffering, and we are to
Yeah,
us.
for them.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and this is
Wow.
what tapasya means. That
Wow.
if there's something else. Yes. Okay. Now let's go to six Astakam. Yeah. Here is also, this was interesting point, that a person who becomes eligible to be delivered from the path of repeated birth and death, it being eligible is not enough. That is not enough yet, but having the causeless, getting the causeless mercy after that for the further progress, that is what makes one attached to causeless devotional service. So first one
So
needs to become eligible, and then after getting causeless mercy, he can become further progressed, become more attached. Okay, now let's go to the Cheto darpanam bhavamahadavaki nirvapanam shreyah bhairavachandrika vitaranam vidyavadujivanam anandam buddhivartanam pratipadam purnamritasvadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam.
नाम्नामकारि बहुधानि च सर्वशक्तिस्तत्रार्पिता नियमिता स्मरणेन कालः एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवान् ममापि दुर्दैव मीदृशां भाजनिनानुरागा
Trinadapi sunicena tarorapi sahisnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari.
न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीशकामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात्
ऐनन्दतनुजा किङ्करं पतितं मां विषमे भवां बुधौ कृपा तव पादपङ्कजस्थितधूलिसदृशं विचिन्तया
नयनं गलादश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदहृदया गिरा पुलकेर्निजितं वपुकथा तव नाम गृहणे भविष्यति
युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्राविश्य इतं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दाविरहेण मे
आश्लित्य वा पादरतां विनष्टु माम् अदर्शनामर्महदां करोतु वा यदा तदा वा विददाति लम्पटु मत्प्राणनादस्तु स एव नापरः
Haribo. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names, like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the starving in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
Oh my Lord, I do not desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your costless devotional service.
O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
Oh my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling your separation, some considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord.
हरि बोल श्री शिक्षास्तकम की जय हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय सच्चिदानंद की जय नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय
Jai,
श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जय
Jai,
जगत गुरु श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्री
Jai,
प्रभुपाद की जय जय गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि
Jai.